Yo, what's up, guys? This is Raquel with the Reading Roller Coaster Club, and today we're going to be going over my May roundup reads. For the month of May, I did read 6 books. 2 of those were part of my book club. Sorry if you are shaky. Let me get it together. 2 of those are from my book club, okay? And let's just get right into it. Let's just yap about them. Okay, so the first book that I read was Love Mom by Iliana Xander. I gave that book a 4-star. I was originally leaning towards a 3-star, but then it hooked me. So this follows a girl named Mackenzie Casper, whose mother has just passed away. The book opens up, she is at her funeral. She is leaving. On her car, she discovers that there is a letter. It is like a diary entry, and it is signed off Love Mom. So immediately Mackenzie's like, is this a joke? Like, what kind of shit is this? You know what I mean? Because she just seen her mom laying in the casket. So she's just like, okay, that's freaking weird. Like, whatever. And then she gets another one. So then she's like, no, this is becoming a thing. So she enacts her best friend, EJ, to help her go down this rabbit hole. And they try to, like, figure out what the hell is going on. And so she starts getting these letters, like, on a loop, right? And so with each letter, we get a little piece of the puzzle, which I appreciated. Now, let me warn you, stick with the book. Because you're going to read, like, the first 4 or 5 chapters and be like, where's this shit going? This shit's so, like, repetitive, it's stupid, it's whatever all the negative things you feel about reading, but stick to it, because eventually, if you like Freida McFadden, which I do, it becomes a very popcorn thriller bingeable book after you get over the hump. You got to get over the hump, okay, guys? Just, like, stick to it, because you will not regret it. I did not regret it. You will not regret it. So this book feeds you little pieces of the puzzle with every letter. But on the side, Mackenzie is doing her own thing. She's investigating. She's like, oh, I didn't add. Her mom was a thriller writer. Her mom used to write thriller books. So then she's like, is my mom's books based on fact or fiction? And was my mom's death actually an accident? Or did somebody freaking one off her? You know what I mean? So we get to go along on that journey. You won't be disappointed. I was left satisfied. I appreciated that Miss Xander did not have a very predictable ending, as do most popcorn thrillers. Once you read enough thrillers, you're kind of able to, like, predict where this is going. But I'm happy to report that Love Mom did not do that, okay? It did give you enough to try to keep you guessing, but never to really figure it out. And also, I appreciated that by the end, all the characters' stories are closed off, and you're not left wondering, you're not left on a cliffhanger, you're totally satisfied by the end of the book. So for that, I would definitely recommend. But again, stick to it. Get past those first 4, 5, 6 chapters, whatever. After that, you'll be rolling in the popcorn. All right, moving on. I hate to tell you guys that love Colleen Hoover or love Reminders of Him, because that was my next book, and I gave it 2 stars. I gave it 2 stars, okay? I hated it. And then I watched the movie, and I would have gave the movie a 1.5 star. I hated it too. I hated all of it. All shapes, forms, sizes of Colleen Hoover's Reminders of Him. I hated it. I didn't see the hype. I didn't get it. And I'm very simple-minded, so that says a lot. But seriously, yo, okay. So if you don't know, Reminders of Him follows a girl named Kenna. Kenna is just getting out of prison when this book or this movie or whatever opens up. And she was in prison because she was involved in a drunk driving accident that killed her then boyfriend, Scotty, okay? When Kenna goes into prison, she does not know that she's pregnant. She ends up giving birth to this little baby girl, whom she named Diem. That is as far as her connection she has to this child. Because immediately when she has her, she is not able to look at her, smell her, kiss her, see her, hold her, nothing. She is taken away and given to the paternal grandparents, to which Kenna's rights are totally all... She signed them off, I believe. They're terminated. She's gone. She has no connection to Diem legally, right? And so she's sitting in prison all these times, and she's thinking that's the best that she did. You know, she had to give her a chance. She's in prison. What can she do? Yada, yada, yada. She gets out. Diem is now like 4 years old. She decides, I'm not going to go down without a fight. She doesn't want to take the little girl. She doesn't want to take her away from her only parents that she knew, the grandparents, Scotty's parents. She just wants to have... Oh my god, do you see my trash? It's all like paper and water bottles, because this is like my office. Let me move that out the way. Okay. She just wants to have some sort of relationship with her. She wants her to know that she's her mother. But she doesn't want to ruin her whole life that she's known up to this point, okay? So when she gets out, it's her and whatever was left in her commissary, which is like, I guess, a couple of hundred. She's able to get her a rungy little rundown apartment that comes with a little kitty that's so cute. And that's it. So she has like less than a month to figure it out because then rent's going to be due. So she immediately goes on the job hunt. I do give her that. She's a little hustler. She is ambitious. I'm sure her daughter is her reason because she came out rock bottom. She has nothing to her name at all. So she is job hunting day one after getting this apartment that she just, I don't even know how she found it, but she found it, girl. And it starts raining. So she goes to this bar that is run by this man named Ledger. Okay? You see how unique that name is, Ledger? Okay. When she walks in, Ledger immediately peeps game. Like, who that girl in that Mountain Dew shirt? Like, green is her color, right? So he's already peeping on her. He's like, yep. And so she has no idea who he is until he says his name. And then she finds out that Scotty had a best friend named Ledger, and how many people are named Ledger? So at some point, she knows who he is, and he doesn't know who she is. He doesn't know that this is Kenna, the Kenna that killed his BFF. And at this point, Ledger has kind of stepped in as a surrogate father to Diem. He works side by side with Diem's grandparents as like a big brother / father figure for her. So everything's cool until the point he finds out who Kenna is. Once he finds out who Kenna is, he hates her stinking guts, right? And so then we start seeing their relationship kind of growing. She kind of gets to tell her side of the story. So then there's like a side romance going on apart from the main mission of getting back in her daughter's life. So this is just like a story of redemption, of love, of second chances, like all of these things that I could appreciate. But I did not care for the writing. I thought that it was very silly, somewhat repetitive, somewhat like big yawn fest for me. You know, I don't know. And I was hoping that the movie was going to make it better, but it didn't. So I would not recommend it at all. Moving on. The next book I read was Jennifer Hillier's Things We Do in the Dark. That book I gave 4 stars. It is not my favorite Jennifer Hillier book. This book follows a girl named Paris Parlata. She immediately, in the beginning of the story, we open up with her celebrity husband gone. Her in the back of a cop car taking the rap for it, right? And then we get to follow her story and kind of what led up to this. But at the same time, eventually we're introduced to this other girl named Joey. And her story begins in Seattle, Washington in the 1990s. And we get to go back and forth with these dual timelines to eventually, of course, they're going to meet up somewhere in the middle and things are going to start making sense. I gave it a 4 because I appreciated the story. The story was good. Of course, I like Jennifer Hillier. It's just I wasn't interested. I don't know what it was. It did not catch my attention. I was listening to it on audio and reading it, the physical book. Those combination of reading the audio and the physical book usually hooks and sinkers me. Like I'm usually locked, in. But for some reason, this book did not do that for me. And it had it was good though. I don't know how to explain why. Like I just didn't care for it, but it was good. It's like oxymoron. Like it was really good, but I didn't care for it at the same time. But it was a cool story. That's all I'm going to say about that. Okay. I'm going to dig myself in a hole I can't get out. Let's move on. The third book that I read. Oh my gosh. Hold on. Let me grab my notes. Okay. So the next book that I read was The Mad Wife by Meagan Church. I believe this was her debut thriller, I believe. I gave this one 5 stars. I was leaning towards a 3, but let me tell you something. I don't know why this book is marketed as a thriller. Like a historical thriller. I don't know why. I don't understand it. This book is so much more than that. And it took me until like part 2, I guess, to really, because there's like parts, to understand. Once I understood, so many flood of emotions came to me. So much so that I wrote, and I'm not a lengthy review writer. Sometimes I don't even write reviews. I just rate them whenever I'm like on my Goodreads and stuff. But this one, I was compelled to write a lengthy review. And I think the only way I'm going to do it justice is if I read it to you what I wrote. But let me explain first, okay? The Mad Wife follows a woman named Lulu Mayfield. She is a 1950s suburban housewife, and she's perfect. Like, she has her schedule on her fridge Monday through Sunday and all the chores for each room that she's going to do that day. She cooks all kinds of badass jello-y things. She has a son. She's an awesome mom. And she has her girls in the neighborhood, the other wives. They sit around and put their babies to sleep and go to whoever's hosting, which is usually her, and play like rummy and dominoes and all kinds of shit and just take an hour a day to themselves. And she's doing it all. She has a badass husband who's working, and she's got it all, and she's doing it all. She's perfect until she's not. There comes a point where Lulu becomes the Lulu, okay? Because she ends up having another baby. Pobrecita, she gets postpartum depression. And then on top of it, some bitch Bitsy, well, you know, that's in her mind, moves in across the street. Bitsy's real. But I'm saying, like, she's a bitch in Lulu's mind. Because for whatever reason, Lulu can't stand Bitsy. I think she feels like there's something off about her, that she's in competition with her, because one party, Bitsy brings this badass strawberry cheesecake pretzel concoction, and it is the life of the party. And Lulu is looking at her like, bitch, I'm queen of the jello. Whose is you? Right? So then she starts having all these thoughts. Like, she hates Bitsy. She hates her life. Like, everything starts falling apart. Her husband may or may not be cheating. Like, there's just a bunch of shit that starts to unravel for Lulu. So now, to do it justice, I'm just going to read what I wrote, because this was me raw in the moment as I was reading. When I was done, this is the true blue review, okay? I'm going to just read this to y'all. So, I put Lulu's untreated childhood trauma paired with her isolations of a 1950s housewife and has taken a toll on her. She has truly gone mad from the pressure and perfection and manipulation of the system. I feel bad for her. Going into part 2, I am questioning if anything is real or if it's all just a figment of her imagination, because she was really losing her shit, right? I first started reading this book. I was more than halfway through. I felt like I was just reading the diary of a 1950s housewife, which, me personally, I love that shit. I'm a nosy bitch. I love to feel like I'm like reading somebody's diary, right? So I really enjoyed that aspect, and I was still questioning, like, where's the thriller? Where's the thriller in this? I don't understand why this is deemed a thriller, because it wasn't thrilling. But I was still interested because I felt like I was literally found some 1950s housewife's diary, and I was all up in the juice, right? So I appreciated that. But I also found I wasn't in a hurry to pick it up and initially read it sporadically. This is true until I hit that point. But as I was approaching part 2 in the book, I did discover that this novel was so much more deeper than that, just as Lulu is so much deeper than we see on the surface. Because on the surface, we're like, girl. But then we get to know Lulu, like get to really know Lulu, right? So this novel was a beautiful yet disturbing allegory of oppression of women in the past. It also holds many truths of what can happen when unresolved trauma combines with complacency. A lot of these chapters had very good writing, and I did appreciate the symbolisms that were written in there. One of them, I'm not going to say it because it is a spoiler, but it was top tier symbolism for me. I felt so bad for Lulu for all that she endured during her whole life. Like, we get, like I said, girl, we're reading her diary, so we get to the past, the present, and so on. I also felt bad for how she was surrounded by other women who also felt forced to be perfect and meet expectations of not only their husbands, but of society, and how these women feared being looked at like almost like it was a competition with the other wives. You know what I mean? And they just sat back and watched Lulu kind of unravel, but it's like, I understand the different times. But I did feel satisfied by the end to see the growth in not only Lulu, but all her relationships. I was originally leaning towards a 3.5, like I said, but I ended up giving it 5 stars. So would I recommend? Yes, I would recommend, but I would also warn you that if you're thinking you're going in there getting a thriller, guys, you're not. this is not a thriller. This is like a historical, I don't know, contemporary, a historical something, not thriller, okay? It is not a freaking thriller. But I feel like it is important. I feel like it was very important to read. It gave me feelings that I didn't know I could feel, or care about things I didn't know I could care about. So I appreciated that. So, sorry, earthquake. Yeah, I would recommend. I'll let you know it's not a thriller. It's historical. If you can get on the historical bus, then beep beep. Okay, so the next book that I read was Holly Jackson's Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I hubby read this. So it took me longer than I would have if I read it by myself. If I had read it by myself, I would have knocked this out quick, fast, in a hurry. I did do both book and audiobook on this one as well, and I would highly recommend either do that or do the audio. The audiobook was so freaking cool, but I'll get to why in a minute. This follows a girl named Pip. Pip is a senior in high school, and she has to do I forgot what it was called, like a STEM or something. She has to do some kind of last big project, for her senior year. So she decides to take on this case that is in her town that is unsolved. There was a girl who happens to be Pip's best friend's sister that went missing a couple years before, or 5 years before, I believe. And the boyfriend of said girl took himself out because nobody knows why, but everybody speculates that he did it because he had something to do with the disappearance of this girl. And he felt so guilty because, all the town was like, he had to have done it. It's always the boyfriend type shit, right? So she decides to take on this case. And they make her sign waivers, like, you're not going to bother the families, you're not going to do anything illegal, yada, yada, yada. But the first thing she does is enact the brother of the boy that committed the disappearing act, right? And his name's Robbie. And together, they start doing their corkboard thing. They start looping lines and doing all kinds of things. And we get to go on that journey. Yeah, we get to go on that journey. It's very bingeable. It hooks you from that very first page. You don't want to put it down unless you have to. And yeah, I don't want to spoil it. So that's basically what it is. We're following Pip and we're following Robbie. And together we are seeing what happened, and things are revealed, and we get to see the whole picture of what happened. And then there's even a Netflix, it's like a series that follows it. I immediately watched that after I finished reading it because I had already prepared myself. I got it from the library because I was like, okay, I should finish this book today or tomorrow, whatever. I'm gonna get the show. Watched it, was not disappointed. I would give the show a 4 and the book a 5. Now, back to why I said you should listen to the audio. The book itself is cool because it has the regular script of the novel, but then also has like transcripts, text messages, shit like that. But the audiobook, it literally, like, you're listening to the interviews. It's like you hear the tape going, you're like, check 1, mic 2, 3, and it's pretty cool. So yeah, I would recommend the audio. If you can do audiobooks, I would recommend doing both. But if you had to choose one, I would definitely say go the audio route. Yeah. Now, the last book that I read for May was a historical fiction, and that was Wayward Girls by Susan Wiggs. I gave this book a 5-star. This book, one second. This book follows 7 teenage girls in the year 1968 who are sent to this house called the Good Shepherd House for Wayward Girls. Now, again, this is the late 60s. They would, like, girls that got knocked up, girls that just were not doing, well, I guess what they're supposed to be doing, got just sent away. Nobody wanted to look at them, right? So let's just go down the list of characters, because this is basically what this whole story is. This story is just about these girls in this home, and then we get their backgrounds and, their life stories before the Wayward House, during the Wayward House, after the Wayward House, and their adulthood. So I appreciated that this story followed that whole timeline, and we got closure. We were not left wondering what happened to either one of these girls. Some things were very sad, some things were very satisfying, but in the end, it was all wrapped up nicely in a pretty glittery little bow, and we felt I felt personally satisfied by the end of the book. I felt happy for the majority of the characters, and again, I felt sad for some of the characters. But let me just tell you about these girls, and I can wrap this up. So the main character is Marin. She is an Irish immigrant girl, and she has a best friend named Fiona. And Fiona has to go stay with her aunt for a little while. And back in those days, you know what that meant when a girl had to go away with family to visit for, I want to say, 9-10 months. And that's like strike one for Marin's mother. Then Marin, and mind you, let me side note this. Marin was not a bad kid. Marin was a good kid. She worked hard. She went to school. She was very driven, ambitious. She was a very great kid. Marin develops this crush on this little boy. The little boy asks her to go on a date. Marin agrees. Her mother, I believe, signs off on it, lets her go. And then I think she comes home like a little bit late or something like that. And so Marin is under the impression that she gets sent to this Wayward home for girls because her mother is scared that she's going to basically turn out like Fiona. She doesn't want her to get knocked up, like you're gallivanting around town with boys type shit. But the reality is Marin's father had passed away and left her mother, and her brother without a father, without a husband, but with a home. And pretty much out of survival, Marin's mother quickly finds another husband who moves into this home with Marin and her brother. Now, Marin is blossoming into a beautiful young lady, and this fucking asshole cannot keep his eyes nor his hands off Marin. So her brother walks in on them and beats the shit out of him, and apparently that's the last straw for the mother. Apparently this is the last straw for the mother. The mother is like, girl, you're out there gallivanting with these boys and your friend's knocked up. I cannot have that happening to you. But no, she just sees it. She sees what's going on with her husband and her daughter, and that is her way of putting a stop to that. Okay. Now, originally, I could not stand Marin's mother for that, because I'm like, how dare you pick this man over your child? And I felt like that for the majority of the book. But there comes a pivotal moment in the book when Marin confronts her mother, and it's kind of sad because in a way I kind of understand where the mother came from, but you have to read the book to understand, because I don't want to spoil it for those who want to read the book. But it kind of was just like biting, like pulling teeth. I was just like, I fucking guess. So anyways, so we have Marin, Irish young girl, sent there because her mother wants to save her, doesn't want her to become pregnant or go with the wrong crowd. Then we have Angela. Angela was born to teenage parents. She doesn't know who her father is. Her mother decided, like, this is not the life for me. She leaves her with her mother and does a disappearing act, never to be seen again. Houdini. So the grandmother raises Angela. Well, one day the grandmother walks in and Angela is macking with another girl, and her grandma throws a fucking fit and says that she's going to send her to this house for wayward girls so that Angela can get right. She needs Jesus. So that's how Angela ends up there. There is a story with Angela as well that happens to her while she's in the wayward girl house. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. So then we get to follow Angela's story. Then we have Helen. Helen is a Chinese girl whose parents, I don't know if they were communist or deemed communist or something like that, but they ended up getting stuck in China. All their assets frozen, visas, everything is out of whack to where they cannot come back to the States. And when this was going on, Helen was in boarding school, and their assets and all that are frozen. So she had to get kicked out of the boarding school temporarily. And her parents found this house, this home, Good Shepherd, for the wayward girls, under the guise that this was a good Christian holy place that was going to teach Helen religious values and also continue her education and how to be a young lady and things like that. But no, Let me tell y'all something about the Good Shepherd. The Good Shepherd does not give a fuck about education. They don't ever make these girls go to school. They're just constantly doing chores. They're getting put in the chokey. You ever seen Matilda the chokey? There's a closet, a grungy, rundown, blacked out, mildewed filled freaking closet that these girls get thrown in when they're insubordinate. And it's the head honcho nun. She's like a freaking mafia boss. And then she has Sister Bernadette, who is her right hand nun, who at one point was one of these girls, but has completely conformed to the life of the Good Shepherd, enacting all these rules on these girls and beating them, belittling them, torturing them, like the works. And then to top it off, the girls there that are pregnant, because this is like a Wayward house for girls, so there's girls that are pregnant here, they adopt their babies out, and they just, yeah, they're horrible. They sell these babies. Okay. Anyways, so Helen is stuck in this world. Her parents did not know that this was what it was for. They did not know that this is where like bad kids go, which hardly any of these girls are actually bad. It's just they were labeled and forgotten, right? So Helen is just stuck in this situation. So there's her. And then we have Denise. Denise is a foster child, and she has a running mouth and a fist to go with it, and the foster system is fed up with her because she is constantly getting in trouble. Nobody cares to listen to what's going on with her. They just keep moving her around to finally they had enough, and a judge said, you know what, I'm taking you out of foster care and you're becoming a ward of the Good Shepherd home until you age out. So that is how Denise ends up there. And then we have Kay. Kay, pobrecita, she is intellectually challenged, and her parents could not take care of her, or they didn't have the means to, the patience or whatever it was to take care of her, and so they sent her there to wipe their hands clean of her. Then there's Janice. Janice takes Kay under her wing. She becomes kind of like a caregiver, kind of like a mentor, like a sister and everything for Kay. She becomes very overprotective of her, and Janice is there because her parents were humping like rabbits and ended up having a fucking shitload of kids and couldn't take care of them. So they eeny, meeny, miny, mowed them, and Janice, you're out. They send Janice to the home. So that's how she ended up there, because her parents just could not afford to take care of her and the 10 other siblings that she had. And then we have Odessa. Odessa is an African-American girl who gets caught up in the riots, because this is like 1968, Vietnam. I don't know if it's post-Vietnam. And there's a bunch of riots and all kinds of things going on. And she was actually there to like help and like separate things. To help the cause, like to help separate things. But then of course things got out of hand. People were rioting and stuff like that. And the police claimed that Odessa attacked one of them, when in reality it was the other way around. She was the victim of police brutality. So of course it fell on her. She was in the wrong. So they were like, either you go to jail or you go 6 months to this house until you turn 18 and you're free. So it's a no-brainer. Odessa did not want to go to jail. Her parents did not want her to go to jail. Like, she was a good kid. And so she ended up in the house for wayward girls. So basically, we're just following these girls' lives. Again, we're following, while they're in there, their relationships that are formed. Because Marin kind of goes in there and shakes it all up. She's the main character. She kind of just shakes it all up. She's very rebellious, but for a cause. And she's like, girl, I can't live like this. You know what I'm saying? Because they're getting sent here at like 14, 15 years old. And they have to stay there until they're like 18 years old. And some of them are younger. And so this is torture for them. So we get to follow them along as they build these friendships and sisterhood. And they kind of get the idea that they want to break out. You know what I'm saying? So we get to follow them to that. Again, we get the history, their backstories. It goes more in depth of their backstories, all of them. And then we get what happens in the future. Like the present time. Because this is an old, whatever. Okay, so yeah. I would definitely recommend. If you like historical fiction, I would definitely recommend this book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I liked it. I gave it 5 stars. So yeah, that is all the books that I read for the month of May. Again, it was 6 books. I had a good time. Leave in the comments, what books did you read in May? What was your favorite? Mine was The Mad Wife. What was your least favorite? Mine was Reminders of Him. I couldn't do it. I don't know. And I was gonna do like regretting you, but then I'm just like, let me put a pause on that because I did not like reminders of him. So yeah. But if you stuck around this long, thinking you're the real MVP, I always get awkward at the end of these. I don't ever know how to close it down, shut it down. So go ahead and like and subscribe. You don't have to share. But yeah, leave a comment. Talk to me. What's going on? I'm gonna have my June roundups coming out pretty soon. I should film this pretty soon. And then I'll be on track. So yeah. Y'all have a good one. Happy reading, and I'll see you on the next one, as they say.